The ship hit the ground hard. Metal screamed against rock and dirt flew everywhere. Inside the crashed vessel, alarms rang loud and red lights flashed across broken screens. Smoke filled the air, making it hard to breathe. Commander Terry pulled herself from her seat. Her scaled skin had cuts on it, but she was alive. She was Vrelian, a reptile species known for being smart in battle. Her yellow eyes scanned the dark cabin. Around her, other crew members groaned and moved slowly. "Everyone out! Now!" she shouted. Her voice was rough but clear. The survivors climbed through the broken door. Outside, the jungle waited. It was like nothing they had seen before. Trees rose high into the sky, their trunks thick as buildings. Strange plants with purple leaves grew everywhere. The air felt hot and wet against their skin, but what struck them most was the noise. The jungle screamed with sound. Animals howled in the distance. Birds with metal-looking feathers cried from the trees. Something large moved through the bushes nearby, making the ground shake. Dr. Minho stepped out behind Terry. He was human, tall and thin, with dark hair and tired eyes. He carried his daughter Yuna in his arms. The little girl was 5 years old, with round cheeks and bright eyes. She clutched a stuffed toy to her chest. It was a honey badger worn from years of hugging. "Papa, what are those sounds?" Yuna asked. She did not sound scared, just curious. "Predators, sweetheart," Minho said softly. "Big animals that hunt. We need to stay close to the ship." Researcher Hana joined them. She was also human, shorter than Minho, with strong arms and quick movements. She studied plants for the Galactic Coalition. Her eyes swept across the strange jungle with professional interest. "Those purple leaves," she said, pointing. "They move when things get close. Defensive plants. This whole jungle is aggressive." Tyri set up a perimeter. Her soldiers took positions around the crashed ship, weapons ready. They did not have to wait long to see what lived in this jungle. From the tree line, yellow eyes appeared. Then more eyes and more. Within minutes, they were surrounded. Creatures emerged from the shadows. They looked like giant cats, but with 6 legs instead of 4. Their fur was dark green, perfect for hiding in the jungle. Each one was as big as a ground car. "Hold your fire," Terry ordered. "They are just watching us," she was right. The 6-legged panthers circled but did not attack. They were testing the new arrivals, trying to understand what kind of prey had fallen from the sky. For 2 days, the survivors worked on fixing the ship's communication system. They needed to send a distress signal to the coalition. The jungle never stopped making noise. At night, the sounds grew louder. Howls and screams echoed through the darkness. On the 3rd day, they needed to gather supplies. The ship's food storage was damaged in the crash. Minho volunteered to lead a team into the jungle to collect samples. Maybe some of the plants were safe to eat. "I will go too," Hana said. "I can identify which plants are dangerous." Terry did not like it, but they had no choice. They were running out of supplies. She assigned 4 soldiers to go with them. Yuna wanted to come too. "No, baby," Minho said gently. "It is too dangerous." "But I want to help." Yuna held up her stuffed honey badger. "Badgie says he can protect us." Minho smiled sadly. "Badgie is very brave. But you need to stay here where it is safe." After much arguing, Yuna agreed to stay, but she made her father promise to come back quickly. Minho kissed her forehead and joined the supply team. They walked into the jungle carefully. The trees blocked out most of the sunlight. Everything was green and purple shadows. Strange insects buzzed around them. Some were as big as a human hand. Hana collected plant samples while Minho scanned them with his device. Behind them, the soldiers watched for danger. Hours passed. They found several plants that might be safe to eat. Then the ground shook. Not from footsteps, but from something deeper. The earth itself seemed to move. "Earthquake," one soldier yelled. The hillside above them started to slide. Rocks and dirt poured down like a waterfall. The team scattered, running in different directions. The landslide roared louder than any jungle predator. When the dust settled, Minho found himself separated from the others. He tried his communicator. Static. The landslide had created a wall of dirt and rock between him and the rest of the team. Then he heard crying behind him. Yuna sat on the ground, dirty and scared, but unhurt. She had followed them into the jungle without anyone noticing. In her arms, she still held Badgie tight. "Yuna, what are you doing here?" Minho rushed to her, checking for injuries. "I wanted to help," she said through tears. "I am sorry, Papa." Minho wanted to be angry, but he was just glad she was alive. He tried the communicator again. Still nothing. The landslide must have damaged it. They were alone in an unexplored part of the jungle. "It will be okay," he told Yuna. "We will find our way back." But as the sun began to set, Minho realized how wrong he was. The jungle sounds around them changed. The normal howls and calls of daytime animals faded away. A different sound took their place. Low growls, rustling in the bushes, heavy footsteps. Night hunters were coming out. Minho picked up Yuna and started walking quickly. He did not know which direction led back to the ship, but staying still was not an option. Behind them he heard something following. Something big. The jungle grew darker. Minho's device had a small light, but it barely cut through the shadows. Yuna stayed quiet, sensing her father's fear. She hugged Badgie closer. Then suddenly all the sounds stopped. The growls, the rustling, even the insects went silent. Complete silence fell over the jungle like a blanket. Minho froze. He knew what this meant. In xenobiology, when a forest goes silent, it means only one thing: an apex predator is near. Something so dangerous that every other creature hides. From the darkness ahead, two small lights appeared. They glowed soft blue like tiny stars in the night. The lights moved closer, low to the ground. Minho slowly set Yuna down and pushed her behind him. The creature stepped into the light beam. Minho's breath caught in his throat. He knew this animal. He had studied it back on Earth. But finding one here on an alien planet thousands of light years from Earth was impossible. It was a honey badger. The blue lights came from glowing marks along its spine. It was bigger than Earth honey badgers, about the size of a large dog. Its fur was thick and dark. Its claws looked sharp enough to cut metal, and its eyes, black and intelligent, stared right at them. Before Minho could react, Yuna pushed past him. She ran straight toward the creature. "Yuna, no!" Minho lunged forward, but he was too slow. The little girl dropped to her knees in front of the honey badger. She held out her stuffed toy. The creature tilted its head, studying the toy, then the child. It sniffed her hand carefully. Then it sat down next to her just like a dog would. Yuna giggled. She reached out and touched the honey badger's head. The creature closed its eyes and leaned into her hand. The blue glow from its spine grew a little brighter. Minho stood completely still. His mind raced with questions. How could an Earth animal be here? Why was it not attacking? What was happening? Then he saw more blue lights in the darkness. Dozens of them. Hundreds. They surrounded the area, watching from the shadows. More honey badgers. All waiting. All watching the child and their companion. A new sound broke the silence. A deep rumbling growl from somewhere close. Red eyes appeared in the trees. The six-legged panthers had found them. They emerged from multiple directions, forming a hunting circle. Minho counted at least 20 of the massive predators. The honey badger stood up. It positioned itself between Yuna and the panthers. Though it was tiny compared to the giant cats, it showed no fear. A low rattling sound came from its throat. A warning. The panthers hesitated. They seemed confused. This small creature should be prey, not a threat. One panther stepped forward, testing. It was twice the size of the honey badger. The honey badger moved so fast that Minho barely saw it. One moment it was sitting still. The next it was a blur of claws and teeth. The panther screamed and jumped back, blood running from its face. Then, from all around them, the blue lights moved forward. The other honey badgers attacked together, coordinated and deadly. They did not fight like prey animals defending themselves. They fought like hunters, like soldiers, like a pack that had trained together for years. Minho grabbed Yuna and held her close, covering her eyes. The battle was over in minutes. The panthers fled into the jungle, leaving 3 of their pack wounded behind. The honey badgers did not chase them. They simply returned to their positions around Minho and Yuna. The first honey badger, the one Yuna had touched, came back to her. It looked up at her with those intelligent eyes. Then it started walking in a specific direction, looking back as if saying, "Follow me." "Papa, it wants to help us," Yuna said. Minho did not know what else to do. They were lost. Night was falling and dangerous predators were everywhere. This impossible creature seemed to offer protection. So he nodded and followed the honey badger into the darkness, with Yuna holding his hand and an army of glowing guardians surrounding them. The jungle stayed silent for the rest of the night, and for the first time since the crash, Minho felt something strange. He felt safe. The honey badger led them through the dark jungle like it knew every tree and rock. Its blue spine glowed softly, giving just enough light to see the path ahead. Behind them, more honey badgers followed in silence, their glowing marks creating a river of blue lights in the darkness. Minho carried Yuna on his back. The little girl had fallen asleep, exhausted from fear and excitement. Her stuffed badgie hung from her hand. Minho kept his eyes on the creature ahead of them, his mind full of impossible questions. Honey badgers should not exist on this planet. They were native to Earth and Earth alone. Yet here they were. Not just similar to Earth honey badgers, but almost identical. The blue markings were different, yes, but everything else matched perfectly. The body shape, the movement patterns, even the fearless attitude. As they walked, Minho noticed something else. The jungle around them was completely empty of other animals. No sounds, no movements. Every predator had left this area. Or maybe they were hiding. The honey badgers owned this territory and every creature knew it. Hours passed. Just when Minho thought he could not walk anymore, he saw lights ahead. Not blue, but yellow. Electric lights. The crash site. The honey badger stopped at the edge of the clearing and looked back at him. It made a soft chirping sound, then turned and disappeared into the jungle. The other honey badgers vanished with it, their blue lights fading like stars at dawn. Minho called out for them to wait, but they were already gone. He walked into the clearing. Immediately, soldiers surrounded him, weapons raised. Then they saw who it was and lowered their guns. Lieutenant Jiho ran forward. He was human too, young and strong, with short black hair and sharp eyes. He told Minho that they had been searching everywhere. The landslide had separated him from the team. Was he hurt? Minho said he was fine and asked about Hana and the others. Everyone was accounted for, Jiho explained. But how did Minho survive the night? And how did he find his way back? Then Jiho noticed Yuna sleeping on her father's back. What was she doing there? Before Minho could answer, Commander Tyri appeared. Her yellow eyes studied them carefully. She saw the dirt on their clothes, the scratches on their skin, and the calm expression on Minho's face. Terry said that Minho had been missing for 12 hours. They had sent 3 search teams into the jungle. 2 came back with injuries from predator attacks. 1 was still out there. How were Minho and his daughter completely unharmed? Minho carefully put Yuna down on a medical bed. She mumbled in her sleep but did not wake up. Then he turned to face Terry and told her they had help. Help from who? Terry asked. Her scales rippled, a sign she was confused. From honey badgers, Minho answered. Silence fell over the group. Several crew members looked at each other. Researcher Hana pushed through the crowd. Hana repeated the words in disbelief. Honey badgers? Had Minho hit his head? Honey badgers were Earth animals. They were thousands of light years from Earth. Minho insisted he knew what he saw. He pulled out his data device and said he recorded it. He played the recording. Everyone watched in silence as the footage showed the creature approaching Yuna. They saw the blue glowing marks. They saw the battle with the panthers. They saw dozens of honey badgers surrounding them in the darkness. When the recording ended, nobody spoke for a long moment. Hana finally said it was impossible. But her voice was quiet, uncertain. Terry said that impossible or not, it had happened. She looked at Minho and asked if these creatures had protected him. Minho explained that they had not just protected them. The creatures had guided them back to the ship. They knew where it was. He shook his head and said that he had studied animal behavior his whole life. What he saw that night did not make sense. Those creatures showed intelligence, organization, and purpose. They were not acting like wild animals. They were acting like trained soldiers. Lieutenant Jiho spoke up. His search team had seen something too. They encountered a pack of those 6-legged panthers that were hunting them. Then the panthers suddenly stopped and ran away. They thought it was strange, but were just glad to survive. Now he wondered if something had scared the panthers off. The honey badgers, Terry said. It was not a question. Over the next few hours, they analyzed Minho's recordings. Hana used her equipment to study the honey badger's physical features. The body structure was 94% identical to Earth honey badgers. The DNA markers they could scan from a distance showed the same results, too similar to be coincidence, too similar to be convergent evolution. Hana looked at her data and said there was only one explanation. These creatures came from Earth. Someone brought them here. Jiho asked who would do that and when. This planet was uncharted. There were no records of any human colonies. Minho thought about the honey badgers' behavior. The way they protected Yuna specifically. The way they seemed to understand what humans needed. An idea formed in his mind, but it seemed too crazy to say out loud. As the sun rose, painting the jungle in orange and gold light, Yuna woke up. She rubbed her eyes and looked around, asking where the badger was. Minho told her it went back to the jungle. Yuna looked worried. Would it come back? They were friends now. Minho did not know how to answer, but he did not need to. From the jungle edge, a familiar chirping sound echoed. The honey badger stepped into the clearing, its blue marks dim in the morning light. It walked straight to Yuna. Every soldier raised their weapons. Terry held up her hand, telling them to wait. The honey badger sat down in front of Yuna. The little girl smiled and patted its head. The creature closed its eyes, enjoying the attention. Terry whispered that it was unbelievable. The creature was treating Yuna like its young. Minho watched closely and disagreed. He told them to look at its body language. It was showing respect, not parental instinct. It recognized her as something important. Yuna giggled as the honey badger nuzzled her hand. She looked at her father and asked if they could keep him. He needed a name. Minho asked what she wanted to call him. Bandit, she answered, because he looked like he was wearing a mask. The honey badger made a soft sound, almost like it approved of the name. For the rest of the day, Bandit stayed near Yuna. When she ate breakfast, he sat beside her. When she played with other children in the camp, he watched from a few meters away, always alert, always protective. The crew quickly learned to accept his presence, partly because he showed no aggression, but mostly because they saw what happened when a jungle predator got too close to the camp. A metallic raptor, one of the flying predators, swooped down toward the human children playing near the ship. Before anyone could react, Bandit moved. He leaped incredible height and caught the raptor in midair. The bird screamed once, then went silent. Bandit dropped back to the ground, the raptor in his jaws. He placed it at Yuna's feet, then looked at her expectantly. Yuna stared at the dead bird. Then she looked at Bandit seriously and thanked him for protecting them. But she said she did not want dead birds. He should just keep the bad animals away. Bandit tilted his head, studying her. Then he picked up the bird and carried it into the jungle. When he came back, his jaws were empty. Jiho said in disbelief that the creature had just understood her. Terry watched everything with her tactical mind working. She ordered Jiho to set up surveillance on the jungle perimeter that night. Use thermal imaging. She wanted to know what else was out there. That night, as promised, Jiho set up thermal cameras all around the camp. What they recorded shocked everyone. Hundreds of heat signatures appeared on the screens. The honey badgers had formed a complete perimeter around the human section of the camp. They sat in organized positions like soldiers on guard duty. When predators approached, the honey badgers drove them away with coordinated attacks. Not one predator got within 50 meters of where the humans slept. Terry called a meeting with Minho and Hana in her command tent. She showed them the footage and said this was not natural behavior. These creatures were guarding them deliberately and intelligently. Minho said quietly that he knew. He had been thinking about this all day. There was only one explanation that made sense. Terry asked what it was. Minho explained that the creatures were made to do this. Long ago, someone brought honey badgers to this planet and changed them, enhanced them, programmed them to protect humans. And that programming still worked even after all this time. Hana looked shocked. He was talking about genetic engineering. Bioweapons, Minho corrected her. Not weapons, guardians. There was a difference. Terry's scales darkened, a sign of worry. Who would do such a thing and why? Minho admitted he did not know, but he thought they needed to search this planet more carefully. If honey badgers were here, there might be other clues, maybe even ruins of an old human colony. Terry thought about this. The coalition would want to know. When they finally fixed their communications, she would have to report everything. Minho said he understood, but he felt worried. The Galactic Coalition had strict rules about bioweapons, even helpful ones. If they classified the honey badgers as weapons, they might order them destroyed. He looked out the tent opening. In the distance, he could see Yuna sleeping peacefully in her bed. Bandit lay on the floor beside her, eyes half closed but alert, protecting his charge even in sleep. Whatever happened next, Minho knew one thing for certain. These creatures were not monsters. They were not weapons. They were something else entirely. Part 3 morning came slowly to the jungle. The crew worked on repairing the communication system, while thousands of blue lights watched from the trees. The honey badgers had not left. They formed a living wall around the camp, silent and patient. Yuna woke up early and ran outside to find Bandit. The honey badger was waiting for her as if he knew she would come. She hugged him and he made soft chirping sounds. Commander Terry watched this from her tent. Something about it bothered her. Not the creature itself, but the situation. Why would ancient guardians still work after centuries? What kept them here all this time? She called for her security team to expand the perimeter. They needed to explore more of the area. Maybe they would find answers. Lieutenant Jiho led a small team north following the honey badger's trail. Dr. Minho and researcher Hana went with them. Bandit followed too, staying close to the humans. They walked for 2 hours through dense jungle. The honey badgers made a path for them, clearing away aggressive plants and warning them about dangerous ground. It felt like walking with an army escort. Then Bandit stopped suddenly. He made a low sound and pawed at the ground. Minho knelt down to look. Under the dirt and moss, he saw something hard. Stone, carved stone. They cleared away the vegetation carefully. More stone appeared. Steps. They had found stairs leading down into the earth. Hana examined the stone and said it was processed granite. Not natural. Someone built this. Jiho called back to base for more equipment and people. Within an hour, they had lights and tools. They began to descend the stairs carefully. The stairs went down about 20 meters. At the bottom, they found a door. It was made of metal, rusted but still solid. Strange symbols covered its surface. Minho studied the symbols with his scanner. His device flickered and showed a translation. The symbols were ancient human script thousands of years old. They spelled out words in a language that predated the Galactic Coalition. He read the words aloud slowly. Verdant Colony 7. Biological Preservation Archive. Authorized personnel only. Silence fell over the team. A human colony, here thousands of years ago. Terry arrived with more soldiers and Dr. Kyung, the oldest member of their crew. Kyung was a human archaeologist with white hair and wise eyes. He had spent his life studying humanity's early expansion into space. When Kyung saw the door, his hands trembled. He told them this was incredible. This was from the Lost Colony period. Dozens of human ships vanished during that era. No one knew what happened to them. Now they had found one. They forced the door open with cutting tools. Inside was darkness. Their lights revealed a large chamber filled with strange equipment. Computers, storage tanks, and walls covered with more writing. Kyung moved through the room like a child in a treasure cave. He read the wall writings and explained what they meant. This was a genetic laboratory. The colonists were working on something important here. Hana found a power source that still worked. It was a fusion cell, barely alive but functional. She connected it to one of the computers. The screen flickered and came to life. Data scrolled across the screen in old human language. Kyung read it carefully, his expression growing more serious with each line. Finally, he turned to the others. His voice was quiet when he spoke. He said the colony arrived here 5,000 years ago. They found a beautiful world, perfect for human life. But they also found the most aggressive ecosystem anyone had ever seen. The predators here were too much. The colonists were dying. Minho asked what they did. Kyung explained that they brought genetic samples from Earth, samples of Earth's toughest survivors. They chose honey badgers because of their fearless nature and their ability to fight animals much larger than themselves. But they did not just bring regular honey badgers, he continued. They enhanced them, made them smarter, made them live longer, gave them the glowing marks for communication in darkness. And most important, they programmed them with one absolute rule: protect humans, especially children. Terry asked why children specifically. Kyung pulled up more files. He showed them images of the colony, families, children playing. The colonists knew they might not survive, but they hoped future humans would find this world. They programmed the honey badgers to recognize human young as the highest priority. If humans ever returned, the guardians would protect their children first. Hana looked shocked. She asked if it worked. Kyung said it worked too well. The honey badgers became apex predators. They dominated this world. Within 2 generations, they controlled the entire jungle. The colonists left one final record before they vanished. The record said that even if the colony failed, the guardians would remain. Waiting. Remembering. Ready to serve humanity when it returned. Minho felt a chill run down his spine. 5,000 years. The honey badgers had been waiting for 5,000 years, and their programming was still perfect. Jiho asked what happened to the colonists. Kyung searched through more files. He found a final video log. The screen showed a woman middle-aged with tired eyes. She spoke an ancient human language, but the computer translated it. The woman said they had succeeded in creating the Guardians, but failed to survive themselves. A plague had swept through the colony. Not from this world, but something they brought with them. Their own medical supplies had become contaminated. She was the last one alive. She said the Guardians were perfect. They protected every child until the end. They understood their purpose better than any animal should. But understanding could not stop a plague. Her final words were a message to future humans. She said if anyone found this place, they should know the Guardians were not weapons. They were hope. Hope that humanity would return. Hope that the sacrifice meant something. The video ended. Nobody spoke for a long time. Finally, Terry broke the silence. She asked what they should do now. The Coalition had laws about enhanced species. This discovery would force them to make difficult decisions. Minho thought about Bandit and Yuna, about the bond they had formed in just one day, about the thousands of honey badgers waiting in the jungle. He said they had to tell the truth. All of it, let the Coalition decide. But they should also advocate for the Guardians. These creatures had waited 5,000 years. They deserved a chance, Kyung agreed. He said this was one of the most important archaeological finds in human history. It showed that ancient humans tried to create symbiotic relationships with Earth species, not slavery, not weapons. Partnership. They spent the rest of the day copying all the data from the archive. Everything the colony had done. Every experiment. Every success and failure. It would take months to fully analyze it all. As evening came, they returned to the surface. Bandit was waiting at the top of the stairs with Yuna beside him. The little girl had somehow convinced someone to let her come to the ruins. Minho wanted to scold her for leaving the camp, but he stopped. Yuna sat between Bandit and 3 other honey badgers, completely safe. She was drawing pictures in the dirt with a stick. The honey badgers watched her like attentive students. Hana whispered that this was what the colonists wanted. This moment right here, a human child safe and happy, protected by their creations. That night, back at camp, the communication system finally came online. Terry sent a message to the Coalition. She told them about the crash, the honey badgers, and the ancient colony. She requested immediate assistance and guidance. The response came faster than expected. A Coalition ship was already on its way. They had detected the crash days ago and sent help. But the ship that was coming was not a rescue vessel. It was a bioweapons control team. Commander Vekis, a Heltorian officer, would arrive in 2 days. Her orders were clear. Assess the enhanced species and determine if they posed a threat to galactic security. If they did, she had authority to neutralize them. Terry read the message twice, her scales turning dark. Neutralize. That was Coalition code for elimination. She looked out at the camp. Yuna was asleep in her bed. Bandit curled up on the floor beside her. In the jungle beyond, thousands of blue lights glowed softly. The Guardians were keeping watch as they had for 5,000 years. Terry had seen many things in her military career. She had fought wars and made hard choices, but this felt different. These creatures had done nothing wrong. They had simply waited. And now, because humans had created them, they might be destroyed. She called Minho to her tent. When he arrived, she showed him the message. He read it and went pale. He asked if there was anything they could do. Terry said they had 2 days to gather evidence that the honey badgers were not a threat. 2 days to prove that these Guardians deserved to live. 2 days to save 5,000 years of waiting. Minho looked determined. He said they would do it. They would show the Coalition what these creatures really were. Not weapons, not monsters, just very patient friends who had never forgotten their promise. Outside, the jungle was silent again. But this time the silence felt different. It felt like the calm before a storm. In 2 days, everything would change. The Guardians would either be accepted by the galaxy, or they would make their last stand defending the humans they were created to protect. Part 4. The Coalition ship arrived exactly when promised. It was not large like a battle cruiser, but it was heavily armed. The ship landed in a clearing near the crash site, its engines throwing up dust and breaking small trees. Commander Vakis emerged first. She was Heltorian, an insect species with 4 arms and compound eyes that saw in multiple spectrums. Her chitinous armor gleamed black and red in the sunlight. Behind her came a full bioweapons control team, armed with neural nets and containment equipment. Tyeri met them at the landing site. The 2 commanders studied each other carefully. Both were military professionals. Both followed orders. But their orders might soon conflict. Vicky spoke first. Her voice was sharp and precise, translated by a device on her collar. She said she had reviewed the reports. Enhanced predators created by humans living wild on an uncharted world. The situation required immediate assessment. Terry nodded and said she understood. But she requested that Vakis see the full picture before making any decisions. These creatures were not what the report suggested. Vakis agreed to an inspection tour. Terry led her through the camp, showing her everything. The ruins, the archive data, the recordings of the honey badgers protecting humans. She explained the colony's history and their purpose. Vakis listened without emotion. Her compound eyes took in every detail. When they reached the area where Yuna played with Bandit, she stopped and watched for several minutes. The little girl was teaching Bandit to fetch a ball. The honey badger seemed confused at first, but eventually understood. He brought the ball back and dropped it at her feet. Yuna clapped and hugged him. Vakis asked if the creature was domesticated. Dr. Minho, standing nearby, said no. Bandit was fully wild. He chose to stay with Yuna. There was a difference. Vakis turned to Minho. She asked how many of these creatures existed. Minho answered honestly. Based on their thermal scans, approximately 3,000 in the immediate area, possibly more throughout the planet. Vakis made a clicking sound that her translator did not convert. She said 3,000 bioengineered predators with enhanced intelligence represented a significant threat. Researcher Hana stepped forward. She said respectfully that threat implied intent to harm. These creatures had shown only protective behavior. In 2 weeks, they had not attacked a single human. Vakis responded that lack of aggression now did not guarantee safety later. Her own world had fallen to an engineered plague. 7 billion Heltorians died because someone thought they could control biology. She would not let that happen to other species. Silence followed her words. Everyone understood now. Vakis was not cruel. She was traumatized. She had watched her entire civilization collapse. Her rigidity came from fear, not hatred. Dr. Kyung spoke up. The elderly archaeologist said he understood her fear. But these creatures were different. They were not designed to spread or evolve. They were designed to wait. And waiting was all they had done for 5,000 years. Vakis asked how they could be certain the programming was stable. Terry suggested a test. If the honey badgers were truly programmed for protection rather than violence, they would respond to de-escalation. She proposed they attempt to contain one creature peacefully. If it reacted with aggression, they would have their answer. Vakis considered this. Finally, she agreed. But she insisted on full protocols. Neural nets ready, armed soldiers standing by. At the first sign of danger, they would contain all the creatures. Terry ordered Bandit to be brought to a secure area. Minho had to explain to Yuna what was happening. The little girl cried and said they could not put Bandit in a cage. Minho told her gently that they had to prove Bandit was safe. If they did not do this, bad people might hurt him and all his friends. Yuna understood, but she still cried. They led Bandit to a containment cage. The honey badger went willingly, following Yuna. When the cage door closed, he sat down calmly. No aggression, no panic. He simply waited. Vicky studied him through the bars. She ordered her team to activate the neural net slowly. The electromagnetic field would cause pain, but not injury. If Bandit attacked, it would prove he was dangerous. The net activated. Bandit flinched. The field clearly hurt him. His blue markings glowed brighter. But he did not attack the cage. He did not try to escape. He looked at Yuna and made soft chirping sounds as if telling her everything was okay. Yuna could not stand it anymore. She ran to the cage and pressed her hands against the bars, crying. She begged them to stop hurting him. Vakis ordered the net deactivated. She stared at Bandit for a long moment. Then she did something no one expected. She told her team to open the cage. Her soldiers hesitated. She repeated the order sharply. The cage opened. Bandit stepped out slowly. He went directly to Yuna and licked her tears. Then he turned and walked toward Vakis. every weapon pointed at him, every soldier tensed. Bandit walked right up to Vekis and sat at her feet. He lowered his head in the submission posture of a domestic dog, showing respect to the leader of the pack. Vekis looked down at the creature. One of her hands reached out slowly and touched his head. Bandit closed his eyes. Then something incredible happened. From the jungle surrounding them, thousands of blue lights appeared. Every honey badger on the planet seemed to be there, and every single one sat down in the same submissive posture. 3,000 apex predators showing submission, not because they were weak, but because they understood this was the way to protect their humans. Vekis stood frozen. Her translator clicked rapidly as she processed what she was seeing. Finally, she spoke, her voice quiet. She said this was unlike anything in the Coalition database. These creatures showed discipline that most sentient species lacked. They could have attacked at any time. Instead, they chose peace. Minho stepped forward carefully. He explained that humans evolved alongside predators on Earth. They learned to form partnerships instead of just dominating. The honey badgers were engineered to amplify this trait. They did not serve humans. They allied with them. It was a relationship built on mutual respect. Vekis asked what would happen if humans left this world. Would the honey badgers return to being pure predators? Kyung said they already had the answer to that question. Humans left 5,000 years ago. The honey badgers did not become monsters. They waited. They maintained their programming across countless generations. That showed incredible stability. Vekis turned away and contacted Coalition High Command. She spoke in her native language for several minutes. The conversation seemed heated at times. Finally, she turned back to face the assembled humans. She said that Coalition Command had reviewed all the data. They were making an unprecedented decision. This planet would be designated a protected integration zone. A human research colony would be established to study and monitor the honey badgers. The creatures would not be eliminated, but they could not leave this world. Ever. It was a compromise. Not perfect, but better than extinction. Terry asked what about the honey badgers that might already exist on other lost colony worlds. Becky said that was a problem for another day. For now, these guardians would live, but they would be watched carefully. Any sign of instability would trigger immediate containment protocols. Minho felt relief wash over him. It was not perfect freedom, but it was life. The honey badgers would survive. Yuna ran to Bandit and hugged him tightly. The honey badger made happy chirping sounds. Around them, the 3,000 guardians rose from their submissive positions. They did not celebrate or make noise. They simply returned to the jungle, their blue lights fading into the trees. Vekis watched them go. She told Terry quietly that she hoped this decision was right. Her people had paid dearly for trusting engineered life, but these creatures had earned a chance. Terry said she understood. She would personally oversee the integration process. These guardians would not be allowed to become a threat. As Vekis prepared to leave, something strange happened. Her scanners detected movement in the jungle. Massive movement. She pulled up the thermal display on her portable screen. The six-legged panthers, the metallic raptors, the serpentine tree dwellers. All of the planet's native predators were converging on the honey badger territories. Thousands of them, but they were not attacking. They were showing submission behaviors. The entire predator hierarchy of the planet was restructuring itself around the honey badgers. Minho stared at the data in horror. He said they had not just found the guardians. They had woken them up, reminded them of their purpose. And now those guardians were organizing the entire ecosystem. Vekis looked grim. She said this changed things. The honey badgers were not just apex predators. They were ecosystem engineers. They could reshape an entire world's food chain. Hana asked what they should do. Vekis said there was only one option: monitor everything. Document every change. If the ecosystem destabilized, they would need to intervene. But if it stabilized, if the honey badgers created a functional hierarchy, then humanity would have proven something incredible. She looked at Minho. She said humans had a gift that terrified other species. They could befriend monsters. They could turn apex predators into allies. This gift was why many species in the galaxy feared humans, even while respecting them. Minho said it was not about dominance. Humans evolved in a world filled with predators. They learned to see potential partners instead of only threats. Sometimes that got them killed. Part 5. 6 months passed like a dream on Verdant 7. The crashed research vessel had been stripped for parts and recycled into the foundation of a proper colony. Buildings rose where the jungle once stood. Labs housing units, schools, a human settlement taking root on alien soil. But this colony was different from any other in the galaxy. Here, humans did not conquer the wilderness. They lived alongside it. More accurately, they lived under its protection. Dr. Minho stood in his new laboratory, reviewing data on holographic screens. His research had expanded far beyond simple xenobiology. He was now documenting something unprecedented, a functional symbiosis between humans and enhanced predators across an entire planetary ecosystem. The honey badgers had transformed the jungle in ways no one predicted. They did not rule through fear or violence. They ruled through organization. The six-legged panthers now hunted in coordination with honey badger packs. The metallic raptors served as aerial scouts, alerting the honey badgers to danger or food sources. Even the serpentine tree dwellers, once aggressive ambush predators, now performed specific ecological roles within the hierarchy. The jungle had become eerily safe for humans. Children could play at the colony's edge without fear. Predators gave them wide berth. Not because humans were strong, but because the honey badgers had made it clear humans were protected. Researcher Hana entered the lab carrying plant samples. She had been cataloging how the jungle's flora responded to the new predator hierarchy. Aggressive plants that once attacked anything that moved now seemed more selective. The ecosystem was adapting. She placed the samples on a scanner and asked Minho if he had seen the latest footage from the monitoring stations. Minho pulled up the video files. They showed something remarkable. A six-legged panther pack had cornered a large herbivore, clearly preparing to hunt. Then a single honey badger arrived. With a series of chirps and body movements, the honey badger redirected the panthers to a different area. The herbivore was left alone. Hana explained that the herbivore was pregnant. The honey badgers were managing the ecosystem for long-term stability. They understood population dynamics better than most sentient species. Minho shook his head in amazement. The colonists who created these creatures 5,000 years ago had done something incredible. They had not just made guardians, they made caretakers of entire worlds. Outside the lab, Yuna was attending school with other colony children. She was 6 years old now, taller and more confident. Bandit waited outside the classroom as he did every day. Other honey badgers had bonded with other children, but Bandit remained devoted to Yuna. When school ended, Yuna ran outside and hugged Bandit. She asked if he wanted to explore the jungle with her. The honey badger chirped approval. They walked into the forest together, accompanied by 3 other honey badgers and Yuna's best friend, a girl named Sora. The children moved through the jungle with complete confidence. They knew every plant, every animal, every safe path. The honey badgers had taught them. Yuna had become something unique in the galaxy. A child raised alongside an apex predator species. She understood their language of chirps and body movements. She could read their intentions and emotions. In many ways, she was becoming a bridge between human and honey badger culture. Lieutenant Jiho, now promoted to captain, watched from a monitoring post. His role had shifted from security officer to liaison between the colony and the honey badgers. He documented their behavior, mediated any conflicts, and ensured both species coexisted peacefully. Commander Taeri joined him at the post. She had taken up permanent residence as coalition observer. Her job was to assess whether this experiment in human-predator coexistence remained stable. She told Jiho that she would be filing her final comprehensive report that evening. Coalition Command wanted a full assessment after 6 months. Jiho asked what she would say. Terry looked out at the jungle. She said she would tell them the truth. That humans possessed an ability other species found either impossible or too dangerous to attempt. They formed partnerships with predators, not through dominance or domestication, but through mutual respect. The honey badgers were not servants or weapons. They were allies, and that alliance had created something the galaxy had never seen before. A managed ecosystem where predators protected prey, where violence was controlled by intelligence, where different species worked together for common survival. Jiho said that some species would find this terrifying. Terry agreed. If humans could do this with honey badgers, what else could they do? What other Earth species had been enhanced and scattered across lost colony worlds? The implications were staggering. That evening, scientists and colonists gathered in the main hall for a presentation. Dr. Kyung, the elderly archaeologist, had completed his analysis of the ancient colony archives. He had important information to share. Kyung stood before the assembled crowd, his white hair reflecting the hall lights. He began by explaining that Verdant 7 was not alone. The colony archives contained communications with 6 other lost colonies. Each one had been conducting similar experiments with different Earth species. One colony had worked with wolves, another with ravens. There were mentions of enhanced elephants, octopi, and even bears. Each species was chosen for specific traits: wolves for pack coordination, ravens for intelligence and communication, elephants for memory and social structure. The room went silent. Minho felt his heart race. 6 other worlds, 6 other enhanced species, all programmed to wait for humanity's return. Terry asked if Kyung had coordinates for these colonies. Kyung said the data was corrupted, but he had partial information. 3 of the colony locations could be triangulated. The others would require extensive searching. Hana asked the question everyone was thinking. What if those enhanced species had survived like the honey badgers? What if they were still waiting? Kyung said that was exactly what they needed to find out. The coalition needed to mount expeditions to these worlds. If more guardians existed, humanity had a responsibility to them. Commander Terry included all this information in her report to Coalition Command. She recommended immediate surveys of the 17 known lost colony locations. The response came back within hours, faster than she expected. Coalition Command approved the expeditions, but they also issued a warning. If any enhanced species proved unstable or dangerous, they would be contained or eliminated. Verdant 7 had earned the honey badgers a chance. Other worlds would need to prove themselves too. Word spread through the galactic community quickly. The story of the Guardian world became famous. Scientists wanted to study it. Philosophers debated the ethics. Military strategists worried about the implications. But for the colonists on Verdant 7, it was simply home. They woke each morning to the sound of the jungle. They worked alongside the honey badgers. They taught their children to respect predators while being protected by them. One evening, Minho took Yuna to a hill overlooking the colony. They sat together watching ships come and go. Scientists, journalists, coalition observers. Everyone wanted to see the miracle of Verdant 7. Yuna asked her father a simple question. Were there more creatures like Bandit out in the stars? Minho looked up at the night sky, thinking about the lost colonies and the species they had created. He thought about wolves running through alien forests, ravens circling alien skies, elephants remembering across centuries. He told Yuna yes. There were more. Somewhere out there, other guardians were waiting, and one day humans would find them all. Yuna smiled and hugged Bandit closer. The honey badger made soft chirping sounds, content. Bandit and the other honey badgers understood something the rest of the galaxy was just beginning to learn. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the smartest or the fastest, but they had something unique. The ability to form bonds that transcended logic, to create partnerships that outlasted civilizations, to be remembered by creatures who could have chosen violence but chose loyalty instead. The jungle around the colony remained quiet that night. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of order. 3,000 honey badgers patrolled their territories, keeping their ancient vigil. Young colonists wandered too far, and the guardians gently herded them back. Predators approached, and the guardians responded with coordinated efficiency. Above, the stars shone bright and endless. Among those stars were worlds where other guardians waited. Wolves who remembered the scent of humans, ravens who recalled human voices, elephants who held human memories in their ancient minds. The galaxy watched Verdant 7 and wondered, what did it mean that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their ambition? What did it mean that the deadliest creatures they created were protectors? Perhaps it meant that humanity understood something fundamental about survival, that the strongest bonds were not chains of dominance but threads of trust, that the best defense was not walls or weapons but allies who chose to stand beside you. The honey badgers of Verdant 7 had waited 5,000 years for humans to return. They had maintained their purpose across countless generations, never forgetting, never abandoning their posts. They had turned a hostile jungle into a safe haven, organized chaos into order, transformed violence into protection. and now that humans had returned, the Guardians would never let them go again.